She was to be hanged at dawn, until the most feared gunslinger rode in and called her his bride. The sun hadn't risen yet, but the gallows cast a long shadow over Redemption, Texas. The town square, usually dusty and quiet at this hour, buzzed with murmurs and uneasy glances. They'd never hanged a woman before. And certainly not one like her, Isabel Reyes. 25, soft-spoken, with eyes the color of warm molasses and a past as mysterious as the desert night. But justice, folks said, didn't bend for kindness or beauty. The sheriff had made that clear. Isabel was to hang for shooting a man in cold blood. She sat in the lone cell of the town jail, the rope already tied above her waiting noose. But what no one saw, what no one wanted to see, was the bruises on her ribs, the broken bone in her wrist, or the tiny child curled up in the corner of the cell, his face buried in her skirt. Tomas, her son, no more than 5, quiet and too small for his age. He hadn't spoken since the night his mother was taken away. The man she killed had been the town banker, well-dressed, respected, and rotten to the core. He'd come to collect a debt, they said. What they didn't say was that he came with fire in his breath and fists in his pockets. What they didn't ask was why Isabel carried a pistol that night, hidden under her threadbare coat. Redemption only saw a widow who'd done the unthinkable. The sheriff stood outside the cell, hat in hand, eyes avoiding hers. "Any last words?" he asked, not unkindly. She looked up slowly, her voice steady. "Only that God knows the truth. And if he's listening, I hope he forgives you all." That should have been the end of it. But then came the sound, faint at first, like thunder rolling low in the hills. Hooves. Fast and unrelenting. And silence fell over the crowd as the dust parted and the figure came into view. He rode a black stallion and wore a long coat that flared like the wings of a raven. His hat tilted low, casting shadow over a jaw carved from stone. The townsfolk didn't have to see his face to know his name. Elijah Crow. The gunslinger of the Deadlands. A man whose legend could curdle milk and silence gunfire. He was death on horseback, and the town held its breath. He dismounted slowly, every eye tracking him like prey. His spurs clinked as he walked toward the gallows. The sheriff stepped forward, hand instinctively on his holster. "Elijah Crow," he said, voice strained. "This ain't your business." Crow didn't flinch. He looked past the sheriff, his gaze landing on the woman behind the iron bars. Then, with a voice like gravel and smoke, he said, "She's my bride." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The sheriff sputtered. "That woman's about to hang, she's no one's wife." "She's mine," Elijah said again, eyes never leaving hers. "We married in El Paso 2 winters ago. She ran from me after the baby was born. Didn't want my life for the boy. But I came for her. I'm taking her home." The sheriff's mouth opened, closed, then opened again. "That don't change the law. She killed a man." "I know," Elijah said. "And the man she killed? He put his hands on my wife." He turned then, voice rising for all to hear. "That man beat her so bad she couldn't see straight. Did any of you stop him? Did any of you ask why a banker was dragging a woman and her child out of their home in the middle of the night?" No one spoke. Isabel stood slowly in the cell. Her hands trembled, but her chin was high. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, barely above a whisper. Elijah stepped closer, eyes softer now. "Because I should have come sooner. Because I'm the reason you had to fight alone." The sheriff looked between them, caught in the space between duty and doubt. "You expect me to let her go because you say she's your wife?" "No," Elijah said, drawing a folded paper from his coat. "I expect you to let her go because she is. We were married proper. The certificate's right here. And under Texas law, a man can't testify against his own wife in a trial, so there never was one." The paper passed from one calloused hand to another. The sheriff examined the seal, the names, the date. His jaw clenched. "You're forcing me to break the law on a technicality." "No," Elijah said, "I'm asking you to remember what justice really means." There was a silence heavy enough to break bones. Then a voice rang out, soft, hesitant. "I saw what he did to her. That banker. I saw it from my window." It was Mabel Collins, the pastor's wife. 63, blind in one eye, and sharper than a scythe. "I kept my mouth shut, 'cause I was afraid. But I saw it." He dragged her by her hair. I heard her cry out. Another voice joined. Then another. A slow unraveling of silence. The truth spilling out like water through cracked dam walls. The sheriff looked down at the paper again. He sighed, deep and tired. "She walks free. But this town has some reckoning to do." The crowd dispersed, quieter now, heavier with the weight of conscience. Isabel stepped from the cell, Tomas in her arms. Elijah held out his hand, not demanding, not commanding. Just waiting. She took it. As they rode out of town, the sky turned gold and rose, the first sun breaking through the darkness. Redemption faded behind them, but something lingered in the air, something like hope. Years later, folks would say the day Elijah Crow rode into redemption was the day the town remembered its soul. The gallows were torn down and never rebuilt. A school rose in its place, and every child learned not just how to read, but how to speak the truth, even when it shakes the ground beneath you. And though no one ever saw Elijah or Isabel again, legend says that somewhere beyond the desert, they built a ranch where kindness was currency and no one went hungry. Where a boy named Tomas grew up knowing that bravery wasn't in the draw of a gun, but in the reach of a hand, offered when it mattered most. Because sometimes, the most feared gunslinger isn't the one who takes lives, but the one who chooses to save them.